All right, welcome back everyone to another edition of Personal Analytics Live, weekly live show where we discuss self-improvement using data to improve, different ways to get better, different strategies that work for me. And I've got a couple of questions to answer today that I've gotten through Instagram, but also happy to take any questions live in the chat if there's anything in particular that anyone wants to talk about. So, how's everyone doing today? Nice cold Wednesday for everyone on the East Coast. Real chill came through, and it's about 50 degrees outside today. Just feels like fall. All right, everything looks good, and I will jump right in. So I got two different questions that were pretty similar. I won't read them exactly, but it was something along the lines of, how do I get better at managing my time? What time management strategies do you have? Like, how do you get so much done? How can you focus on getting more out of each day and blah, blah, blah. So I like to think a lot in terms of compressing time frames. It's a really powerful thing I learned a few years ago that has really helped. Don't assume that something's going to take you an hour. Don't assume that something's going to take you a day or something's going to take you a week, right? Just because you tell your boss it's going to take 2 weeks, you don't want to be thinking that in your head. You always want to be undershooting what you want, the time to be that it takes you to accomplish something. And there's a fine line here because you don't want to be unrealistic. You don't want to be thinking to yourself, oh, this is going to take, 2 days, when really it's something that would take any reasonable person months to do. But you want your brain, subconsciously to be thinking in, how can I cut this down? How can I do this faster? How can I take this amount of work and make it faster? How can I get to my goal faster? How can I condense? And when you start thinking that way, your brain starts giving you ideas of ways that you can condense time frames. So an example that I had is thinking about getting a promotion and thinking about being in a job for 2 years. Typically, that's when the company promotes people. You're 6 months in. So a lot of people would just say, my promotion is coming in 18 months. There's nothing I can do about it now. I have to wait until the 2 year mark, and that's all that I can do. But someone who has this mindset of compressing time frames will think, okay, I'm 6 months in. I'm going to get my promotion in 6 months. I want my promotion to be a full year earlier than the company typically gives out promotions. So that's just the goal. That's the idea. I want to condense that time frame into something much shorter, half as long. So your brain starts running, and your brain starts thinking, and then maybe one day you're in the shower and an idea comes like, this would be a great thing for the company. It would take a lot of extra work. I wouldn't get any credit for it, but it'd be a great thing for the company. So you think about that, and then you're out for a run or you're walking your dog. Another idea comes to your head, and you think, okay, well, this would be a great thing that I could do to make my boss look good, and I would get credit for it, and my boss would get credit for it, and our whole team would look amazing, and it would be extra work, and it would be something else I'd have to do. And then you start thinking more and more of those type of examples. This is how I could do my job better. This is how I could streamline what I'm doing to make it more efficient. This is how I could go the extra mile in the extra time that I have. This is the way that the company views my position. This is the way the company would view a position that's like mine, but that does these extra things. And you start to think of all these different possibilities. And so over the course of 6 months, you have a chance to implement all of those things that take more work, things that require you to get better at the parts of your job you're already doing, things that require you to brainstorm new ways that your job could be classified, new responsibilities your job could have, maybe new team members that could be added to your team. And before you know it, you have a chance to show and prove and justify why you should get a promotion sooner than you otherwise would. A lot of companies will give you a promotion after a year if they're creating a new role for you. If it's technically a new job, they're hiring for a new job, they're just moving you into a new role that they're creating. That is the same effect as a promotion if it's, especially if it comes with a title or a salary increase. So that's an example of thinking in that more condensed time frame gives your brain the ability to brainstorm. You come up with a lot of crazy ideas that are not very good, like, maybe I should switch jobs, or maybe I should, go in and tell my boss I want to raise or I'm quitting. Those things could work, but they're probably not great ideas. But it gives your brain the freedom to start to think, this is 2 years and it's going to take 2 years, so shut off. Don't think of any new ideas that could help. As opposed to, this is something that normally takes 2 years. I'm going to do it in a year. What do you have? What ideas do we, fielding ideas right now. And so time management is something that people focus on in the nitty gritty. So like, what type of study time are you doing? Are you doing focused work versus unfocused work? Are you multitasking? How are you tracking your time? All those things are very, very important. But the number one thing you need to realize is that time is an expression of your focus. So what you're focusing on and how intensely you're focusing and how quickly you get the right answer can shorten the time that something takes. Some things take what they take, and there's nothing you can do about the passage of a different day, or like you can't make winter come sooner than it's going to be coming. But there are a lot of things that are very malleable, and you expect it to take X years to get your first rental property, or X years to get your first business off the ground. Remove all of those. It should take this long. Remove that, because a lot of those things are just what fits the average, what is normal, and if you want to do things that are extraordinary, if you want to really succeed, you're going to have to get rid of all of those limiting beliefs anyway. So you might as well get rid of a limiting belief around how time functions. Make time shorter. Make every goal and everything that you want to accomplish, think about it in the smallest time frame that you can. Plan for it to take longer. You shouldn't be discouraged if it takes longer. You still want to be realistic, but give your brain the opportunity to be like, what would it look like if I did this in a day as opposed to a week? What would have to happen? So maybe I'd have to be a lot better, or I'd have to completely change my personality, or I'd have to hire an employee. It's like, well, I can't afford an employee. That's what it would take. So then it's not something that's feasible. But then you start thinking, okay, well, maybe what would it look like if I could afford an employee? How much more would I have to be making to have an assistant who could do those kind of tasks for me? And then you can start to weigh, okay, maybe it's worth it. Maybe I take a second job so I can afford the employee, and then that makes me this X amount of money, over the long term. So just give your brain a chance to think and a chance to brainstorm, and don't just shut it off and say this is going to take a month and there's no reason to try and make it happen any faster. So that was a really interesting thing that I learned a few years ago. That sounds kind of crazy, but it's true that you can manipulate time that way if you just give your brain a chance to see what it comes up with. So jump in the chat here. Seeing a lot of thumbs ups. Yep, time is just a construct. It's true. Like I said, there are a lot of things that there's nothing you can do. Christmas is going to be in America on the 25th of December. You can't make that come any faster. Just ask any child if they can make Christmas come faster. So some things are not in your control, but a lot of things are just, you should be at a job 2 years before you get a promotion. That's just the way things are done. It's like, well, that's the way things are done in some companies, but a lot of places you can change that. If you make the right moves. A lot of interaction with the chat. Let me just go through and make sure I'm not missing any questions. As always, if you have questions throughout the week, on Instagram @GabeCoded is the best way to reach me. I respond to a lot of DMs there, and any good ones, especially when I'm seeing like common themes, I'll address them in these weekly lives. But if there are no other questions, last call for questions in the chat. I'm going to cut the stream here. I will see you guys next week. Like I said, as more and more questions and more topics come up, as there are more and more questions in the chat, these will start to get longer and longer, but happy to keep it short and sweet and just answer a couple questions that I got throughout the week. So hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you back here next week, similar time.